Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's currently Sunday, October 30th, 2011, which you probably know because this is Day 9 Daily 367, where we learn to be a better gamer, and we're laking a took. Let me try that again. We're taking a look at Nestea's very standard-looking ZvT style. Now, some of the things that I was looking at in the chat, people were seeing this build order. In particular, this, well, I don't really see a lot of Hellions at the start, so that means I can comfortably take this hatch. Oh, well, if he's going to be doing an early stim timing push, which he actually is, Nestea already has that contingency plan put in with this fourth hatch, which was so ridiculously important. I actually elected to have over here as a starred thing, fourth hatch when you can afford it. I'll even put some extra stars in there for contrast. And many people are saying, well, in my league, this is just never going to work. This is so weak. I mean, like, he can do a push to me at, like, any time, and I would have absolutely no idea that it would be coming. However, the important thing to note is that the way to avoid that was these zerglings at the start. If we come back to our little thing, we have extreme caution and care with initial lings to gain info. What I see almost always when I look at someone who's like a gold level Zerg is they will build the Zerglings but not keep the hawk eye on the Zerglings. The Zerglings are actually one of the most important tools to the build order. If the Zerglings are dead, your build order is dead. And a lot of people will be like, oh, that's not very fair. That Zerg is the more fragile race. Every single race has a component like this. Every single one absolutely has one of these. One of the most fragile things about Terran, if you're late with a mule, your whole build, you just don't even have the money to be able to do it. Or, you know, with other races, you need to get the scout worker to a certain location. That happens in PvZ a lot, where you have to be able to micro your probe properly. All builds kind of have this hard part. And the lings are not really very hard to deal with at all. You just have to be very vigilant about setting that up. Super ultra vigilant. Nestea will slowly begin adding on more gas geysers, and look at that. That is an incredible thing to note. He still is getting, what is this? Evo chamber before lair. He is not getting his lair quickly at all. In fact, the general thing that I want you to note is that he, as a rule, delays his lair a lot in this build order. This is one of the big revelations that Nestea made to some degree in the early days of the GSL. He'd get 3 bases on 3 hatches and kind of go roach ling for defense. He thought to himself, yeah, I don't need my lair up at all. I mean, I know Mutalisks are good, but I want better economy. And then he would just delay his lair a lot. You know, let me collapse these into 2-line Evo chamber. Yeah, this is great. This is fantastic. And look at this. Still building drones. This is the part that a lot of people will mess up. They will sometimes build more units. Or, in fact, more importantly, a lot of people will say, yeah, I can't. Or, I need to build the units so that way some scary attack doesn't come in and kill me. Those scary attacks used to come in and kill Nestea. That's why he built a 4th hatch, so he can get the extra larva up. That's the subtle thing to notice. Many Zergs were starting to build those units earlier on, but not Nestea. He's like, well, hell, how do I try to stay alive, man? This is looking très difficile. Vigilant with his Zergling. Super vigilant. Insta +1 attack. Getting 4 extractors up as he's getting lair. Rallying all his hatches up here. Couple of Zerglings, not many. Now, I have a question that perhaps the cleverest of bears will be able to answer. Why are we making some lings right now? Let me actually hit my +++ button and show that more drones are actually built. But why just build like 8 or 9 or 10 Zerglings? Many people will say, well, you need to have a special timing. Sometimes you'll need 30 Zerglings instead of 20 Zerglings. So you have to build 10 early on. That's not quite it. I see it in the chat from Katie Jane. Banelings, baby. That's absolutely correct. This is an extremely subtle but important technique. And notice how the big important parts are coming in increasing magnitude. 4th hatch when you can afford it. Delays his lair a lot in this build order. Build 8 to 12 Zerglings earlier than normal for Banelings. When you see an attack coming, you can easily go, I need to build zerglings, and then just hold the Z button, and then zerglings get built. You don't have enough time to build the zerglings and then morph to Banes. That's the #1 reason I see people end up losing to these early timing pushes, saying, oh, that doesn't work at my level. Drones still get snuck out, but hey, thank goodness we built these early zerglings because I can just hold the E button and morph them into Banelings. Look, there they are, getting morphed into Banelings. Looking good. Looking good, looking good. As a general rule, as another general rule that will end up pulling up, we want to always pull back a lot. Do not engage anywhere away from creep. It's very easy to be in the middle and think, ooh, maybe if I attack from this angle and crunch them, that'll be good. No, pulled way the hell back. Way the frick back. And now as we end up just increasing this a little bit at a time, notice that we are simply getting our Spire as necessary in the unit station. We have a good amount of drones. Spire as necessary. Zergling or Baneling speed as necessary. We're going to get this +1 carapace as necessary.
Our forces are under attack.
And the only thing I would note is to delay geysers 5 and 6. So here we go. We now have another rule. Get layer upgrades as necessary, including Spire. Delay geysers 5 and 6 as necessary if he's attacking. Or something along those lines. Alright, cool. And then when we're a little bit more comfortable, sure, we can end up poking out, but we don't really want to engage off creep. Look at that, making another round of drones. It actually ends up looking pretty easy when Nestea pulls it off. But there's a couple principles that are at work. One is that he's just never missing a freaking larva inject. That helps a lot. But notice that he wants to get Mutalisks up. Look at his gas. Really not very high. People put far too much weight on the Mutalisks. These geysers were not planted very early. We're spending gas on this upgrade, spending gas on this upgrade, spending more gas on the Banelings. Don't save up too much for the Mutalisks, because the point of this build is not trying to get things quickly. It's trying to get a big economy. You're not trying to get things quick, you're trying to get a big economy later. And that, to me, is the biggest overarching rule of all. Don't get things quickly. Just build lots of drones and try to stay safe. It is very easy to get this layer too early. It is very easy to try to get this 4th hatch too early. If you are doing that too early, you will not have the drone count that Nestea has. Look at this. MVP early expanded and has nearly half the workers. In fact, if we, whoopsie daisies, open this up, look at that. The worker supply is huge for Nestea. And is kind of getting there from MVP. I mean, they count mules as worker supply, right? Ugh. Nestea just wants a big army up fast. Or a big army up eventually. He does not want some sort of army up really quick. And look at this. Spire done. Insta upgrades. Aggression from Nestea? Hell no. He's not trying to do damage. He's trying to get his economy up. He's just trying to stay alive. Again, just build lots of drones and try to stay safe. Armies are for safety early on. This is a safety army. Why are the Banelings in the middle? Well, part of it is just because he has everything in one damn control group. But another reason is that we have this nice angle where we have the smoke, we have the ramps. Good stuff. Now, one thing that is sort of a consistent, I guess I'd say, theme of all players from IM, they're all very smart at being safe. The more Nestea extends, the more he builds these spine crawlers back. Now, here's something interesting to note. Let me actually do this. Let me move these notes away. What many people will do is they will say, okay, I need to get Mutalisks, harass with that, do Mutaling, Bling, defense. Cool, right? They'll say, okay, cool, what's my opening? They'll do this. All right, let me get more notes about the opening. All right, cool, be cool to delay the lair. But once I get Mutalisks, I see people stop. I see people go, oh, all right, I just did it. Now I just build Mutalisks, Zerglings, and Banelings. And they just sort of wing it. Sure, your unit mix doesn't change for a while, but there are still essential elements to the build order that you've got to pick up on. So when I pull this back, I actually deleted that segment that was like, get Mutalisks and stop. We have these extra notes, but as we move away from our base, bulk up on defense. Actually, let me just say, as our units move away from our base, bulk up on defense. Can I get that onto one line? Damn right I can. As our units move away from our base, bulk up on defense. Notice, Lings and Banelings on the left half of the map, the top left half of the map. The rally point, the Mutalisks. The Mutalisks are actually going to get ready to kick into action. Move to the other side of the map. So we're building spine crawlers. Look at that. Building spine crawlers. Building spine crawlers. Having a few units here. And a drop's coming in. Well, no big deal. We're focusing on defense. And what you're seeing is that Nestea is not actually harassing that much. Hilariously enough, look at the minimap. Nestea has no vision of any buildings. On the minimap, I'm actually on Nestea's vision. Nestea has vision of no buildings. 0 buildings scouted. None. He's gotten great information. He saw a huge Marine Marauder push. He saw a huge Marine Marauder push come at him. Great. Fantastic. He now knows exactly what's being thrown at him. What if he didn't see that? Well, you know what? The lair would be faster. Delay the lair if you need to. Build lots of drones and try to stay safe. If for some reason your opponent early expanded and went for a standard drop play or a standard marine tank play, you wouldn't have had to build all these units in the middle. I'll actually show this portion again. If we come back here, let's say this didn't happen. If this didn't happen, we wouldn't have to build these 22 Zerglings. We wouldn't have to build these 9 Banelings. We wouldn't have to delay this Spire. Everything that Nestea was doing would have come out faster. We wouldn't have to delay producing those extra drones. We did because it was an early stim push. We did because it was an early stim push. In this case, there was an early stim push, so our lair's delayed. That's great. If there was none, it would be on time. Perfect, perfect, perfect. And you know, what did we actually include in MVP's thing? Don't try to do damage. Just try to take no damage. Do that with everything. This is a consistent theme between Nestea and MVP, even though they play completely different races. Nestea has Mutalisks out. Is he harassing with him? No. He's just trying to keep himself as well defended as possible. As he's extended out, we see all these extra spine crawlers up. Continuing to expand. Never missing an upgrade, ever. Absolutely no upgrades missed. And look at this. 78 drones out, really, really quick. Nestea's poking. Has Nestea tried to poke up here to the vulnerable back? Nope. Just gently skirting by the front, and the unit's lost tab. Very little has been lost. Look at this. The Mutalisks trying to poke at the attack. Not doing too much harassment. Cool stuff, right? He's going to use these Mutalisks. As we come back here, bulk up on defense. Use Mutalisks to do to kill units less than buildings. He's using these Mutalisks to kill units instead of buildings so much. And then he's going to expand at opposite corners of the map like a freaking insane person. He's expanding to the top right and the bottom left. He could have easily planted another hatch there, but he instead elected to throw down this one. Be foolish with how many hatches you throw down. If you have a lot of Mutalisks, Zerglings, and Banelings, that's going to turn out to be great. And as he comes in here, simple things like having the Mutalisks target fire the tanks. Simple stuff. And he just overruns MVP like it's nothing. Expanding like a freaking insane person. Just getting expansions up. Not overbuilding the Mutalisk, not really tuning the Mutalisk, just 16 or so. And then it's easy peasy cleanup from there. Did that not kind of look incredible to you? The game ends in like 5 seconds. There's no real reason to finish that up, but the Mutalisk didn't come out fast. He didn't kill off a ton at the start. How did he do that? Well, I will tell you straight up, the reason it works so well is this very smart 4th hatch timing. The very smart building up of a couple Lings and Banelings right here to do the defense. And then just building way the hell a whole bunch of drones. There's this weird shift that happens, and this is the condition thing I was talking about. If your opponent is going for an early expand, you can take yourself an early 3rd. If your opponent looks like he is moving out to attack you, then you are allowed to delay your lair more. You are allowed to get those Lings and Banelings up. Everything will be fine. Very, very cool, simple, clear, easy way to play. I would love to see your attempts at trying it out. And if you're playing against a player who goes fast Hellion, don't send me the replay. Because it is a conditional play. It is based on the condition that your opponent does expand. Let's go ahead and take some questions on it. Take some questions on it before we do Fun Day Monday tomorrow. Mark you. Let's go ahead and clear. And again, submit to me you trying to do this Nestea style game to Tuesday at day9.tv. Tuesday at day9.tv. Okay, so I'm Jorman says, Dear Day9, how do you respond to early drop play that a Ling couldn't scout? Again, it's less about what you can get in there and see exactly that's happening, and more about the time that things are not happening. So let me come back and point out a big moment when that happens in this game. If we come to right about here, it looks like it is at the 5-minute mark. Wonderful. Nestea has seen no Hellions. He's seen no Hellions. He's seen some Marines. He's seen no Hellions. He's seen no Hellions. He's seen no Hellions. My opponent could still kind of be going Hellions. I've seen no Hellions. I've seen no Hellions. I've seen no Hellions. I've seen no Hellions. You know, I actually don't think he's going for a Hellion play. Let me move in here and get some more confirmation. Okay. Oh, I see 5 Marines. No way in hell could my opponent get 5 Marines and still have gotten a barracks with a reactor on it at the same time. You can't get that many Marines and get a reactor barracks. You can. A reactor on the barracks to give to the factory to produce Hellions 2 at a time. Because he saw that, he went, time to expand. With the drop play, it'll kind of work the same way, where you're like, all right. As in this game, Nestea's doing this. He's going, okay, I got to make sure I have preparations in case he does a stim push. Preparations in case he does a stim push. Uh-oh, he's doing a stim push. All right, I have appropriate preparations to be able to deal with a stim push. But Nestea is going, okay, let me get ready. Is he doing a stim push? Is he doing a stim push? Is he doing a stim push? It's got to be fast drops coming in. And then he's just going to slam out a whole bunch of zerglings and be in pretty damn good shape. With a player who does do fast drops, if you don't have a Spire, you're going to take some damage. And that's okay. Against a fast stim push, which is exactly what we saw. We took damage as Nestea. Our Spire was delayed. We had to build not droning units when we really wanted to build drones. And that's all fine because, again, things just get delayed back a little bit. Nestea gets such a stupidly sick amount of workers up so fast. All these things like drop, look at that, 68 workers to 45. All these things like drops or early pressure that ordinarily can be game ending for, you know, someone in platinum and down. Suddenly, if you're playing with Nesteas, well, I'm just going to keep droning like crazy. Suddenly, you are constantly about to win as Nestea. And in fact, the Terran desperately has to do huge amounts of damage with these kinds of drops to be able to win. Has to do huge amounts of damage. So if he comes in, you got to think, yeah, here he comes. I'm going to try to only let him do a little bit of damage. And then I got this in the bag. Get excited when you see these sorts of plays come in. And again, emphasize that building of drones. We're going to take a couple more questions, and then we're going to recompile the notes. Let's actually do 2 more questions. Do 2 More questions. Ha. Let's see. Neo Bowman says something like Day 9. If we spot a different build, say Blue Flame Hellions or Double Reactor Hellions, how do we alter the build without completely changing the skeleton of 3 base? Lots of drones. Build a Roach Warren, get some roaches up, expand away, and if you see big pushes coming, rely a little bit more on Roach Ling instead of Baneling Zergling. Pretty simple stuff. We're seeing a lot of people making comments about the delays and all that good stuff. Here's a great question from Yaki SC. Dear Day 9, do you think that Nestea's lack of in-base scouting is actually okay? Or is it just a product of how smart Nestea is compared to the average StarCraft 2 player? Nestea relies heavily on what I call a non-trigger, which is where by not seeing something, he does a response. At his core, he's just building a lot of drones and wants to be allowed to build a lot of drones always. And you have to be pretty clever if you want to have something that simple and blunt as your goal. Excuse me. If you want to do something like, I'm going to do a huge Roach Zergling attack every time he does this, then you can funnel your opponent down. But if you're only building drones, you can't funnel your opponent down at all. You can't force them into any way. So you have to look for timings like, 6 minutes and 15 seconds, he has done nothing. I'm in good shape to do blah. That's the thing that he's really doing. And of course, the immediate follow-up question I always get is, well, what if he, instead of moving out with Hellions at 6 minutes, just waited and moved out with Hellions at 7 minutes? That's my problem at my level. That my opponents play slow, so I can't rely on timings. Yes, you can. Because it's not, is he going Hellions or not going Hellions? It is this is the actual comparison you're doing. You're saying, is he doing the good Hellion play, which is moving out at 6 minutes, or he's doing shitty Hellions or no Hellions at all? If your opponent comes out with 7-minute Hellions, you should be like fine, because you didn't have any effect from that fast Hellion play. Almost all timing-based strategies are good because they come fast, not good because they come out at all. Cloaked Banshees that are really slow and catch you by surprise suck. Because your opponent sure will lose 10 drones and have to build like 4 Spore Crawlers at each location. But you also have 4 hatches up as Zerg, so you replenish 15 drones. And then you're in amazing shape because you're against a player who went slow, crappy Cloaked Banshees. Ugh. So let's go ahead and come back to our little notepad document and try to break down what Nestea does. Don't get things quickly. Just build lots of drones and try to stay safe. Armies are for safety early on, not attacking. I want you to do this a lot. Don't try to do damage, just try to take no damage. It's a really, really, really big thing. Some other rules that I want to say is delay your lair a lot. It's kind of the same thing as this, but I still think it's important enough to emphasize very, very strongly. Very, very, very strongly. And of course, I think the other thing that's really important is that early on, extreme caution care with initial Zerglings to gain info. This is good. And I will include the last note as well. If you lose with no units and tons of drones, you're losing the correct way. That is the way you want to lose. You do not want to lose by having a big engagement at the end and not having enough stuff. Why the hell didn't you have enough stuff? That's all Nestea style tries to do, is to have stuff in large numbers. You want to instead say, you want to instead do something like, well, I have 120 drones and no units, and he walked in with 12 Marines and killed me. And then you back off little by little. I never want you to be in a situation where you don't have enough money and you're just losing and you don't know why. Well, it's because you didn't build enough drones quickly enough. And, I'll even throw one other little defensive caveat in here. Build 8 to 12 lings too early so you can morph to banelings if needed. Sure, we had other stuff about this hatch that you can look up at the start. Sure, we had some more build order things. But this is basically the core of who Nestea is as a player. And I want you to become him. Send to Tuesday at day9.tv, please. Please, I would like that very, very much. All right. I think that wraps up the daily. Goodbye, guys. Goodbye a lot.